2K held a press conference today discussing the next-gen version of NBA 2K14. And because of this event, now we know about some of the features of the game. First, let's talk about the game modes. NBA Today, MyPlayer, MyTeam, and MyGM were revealed. NBA Today is going to update our game daily, from the rosters changing to, their stats and attributes going up and down. And then there's a nice feature where you can actually look at highlights from real NBA games, from the games that happened last night, right there on the console. You don't even need to turn on ESPN or NBA TV anymore. It's going to be right there on your console. MyPlayer is a totally different mode. It's been built from the ground up. There's going to be 40 hours of cinematic gameplay just in your first season. So what does that mean? There's going to be these cutscenes before games, after games, different scenarios, things like that. Now all of a sudden, my career is going to have a real storyline to it. This is exciting news because the current gen version of MyPlayer is exactly like it was last year. Nothing really has changed. So to see that they put something like 40 hours of cutscenes and storylines, and the way that they're adding things like that into the mode, you know that this is going to be a much better experience in the current gen. This is going to be crazy. There's also a new Blacktop crew type mode. LD2K was tweeting that when you're not balling in my career, you can hang out with hundreds of my players in the park. And judging by other people that were at the event, they got a sneak peek of it. So they're saying what it seems to be is a big park with like 5 to 10 different courts. And then there's like 100 players on that court at the same time. Not all playing at the same time, but it's basically like you're in a lobby with 100 different my players and you're playing street ball. So maybe there's a voice chat, maybe you're waiting in between games, then you're going to pick up other people that are losing. Maybe it's going to be an environment like that. That's what it seems like. And since multiple games are going to be going on at the same time, you'll be able to see somebody else's game, another full court game going on as you're playing your game. Now, I don't know if there's going to be any referees or anything like that. Probably not. Should be interesting. I can't wait to see how that works. Then we learned that this game is going to be running on a new engine. It's not using the same engine that the current gen is on, so that means the game is not going to behave like the current gen version. There's also going to be real foot planting, so maybe things like speed and court spacing and closeout defense, it's not going to be the way it is on the current gen with this new engine. That's what I'm hoping for. When we get to see some gameplay, that's the first thing I'm going to look at. I'm going to look at the rebounding. I'm going to look at the speed. I'm going to look at the closeout speed, defensive rotations, look at the foot planning. But I am extremely excited to hear that this game has a new engine. That means it's not going to behave like this version of the game I'm playing in this video. Next, let me talk about MyGM. That's the mode that's going to replace Association. It's the new franchise mode, and it's going to have RPG-like characteristics. Your GM will have his own attributes and special abilities that will affect the players on his team. And then they go on to talk about emotions, and they're really raving about the emotions of the players and their personality types and how, as a GM, you're going to have to balance this. Because if your players aren't happy, you could actually get fired from the team that you're on, and your player chemistry is going to get all messed up. Your team's not going to perform well if they're not happy. Now, this sounds good, but I'm a little skeptical because we already have this in association mode on the current gen. It's been like this for years. We've had emotions and player personalities, and it doesn't work out right the way it does in current gen. Maybe the next gen version will be better, but here's an example from current gen. Let's say you play as the San Antonio Spurs. You know how Ginobili is a bench player, he's the sixth man? On the current gen, this is a problem. Ginobili will start complaining about his role, that he's a sixth man, and it'll actually mess with your team chemistry. It'll mess with his attributes, his ratings, they'll go down. And then it's almost like you'll be forced to trade Ginobili because he's not happy, he's messing up the player chemistry, and it's not just him. If you're playing with the Knicks, J.R. Smith comes off the bench, you have the same problem. If it's the Clippers, Jamal Crawford comes off the bench, it's the same problem. Even though in real life, these players accept their roles coming off the bench and they have no issue with it. But when you're playing the franchise mode, it's a problem. So hopefully when they're raving about this new feature about balancing the emotions and the player personalities, hopefully it's not like the current gen, because that's actually annoying and unrealistic. So I don't mean to come off negative here, but it just sounds so similar to something that we already have in current gen. Hey, next gen version, maybe it's much better and it's not going to be like that. That's what I'm hoping. And then of course the last thing on the list is MyTeam. It will be on the next gen. It's finally confirmed. I'm happy. My Team series will be starting when the game is out. Next gen, I'm coming back. I'm hyped. And 2K also went into detail about the graphics. We already know the graphics are great, but they were just emphasizing how much detail they put into the game.